Hi, in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at using OBS Studio with Jack Audio and QjackCtl to patch the audio together. And what this is going to allow us to do is capture the microphone with Jack and route it into OBS Studio. So what I'm going to do is actually shift across here, and what you see is I have Jacked running with QjackCtl open and the output of the microphone patched into OBS Studio. And if I come across to OBS Studio here, you'll see that the Jack input client here is capturing the audio. So what I'm going to do is actually take you through the setup for this, because it isn't that obvious. So what I'm going to do is switch across to my notes, and what I'm going to do is show you a couple of things, some specific to FreeBSD, but others more generally applicable to other Linux distros. So the first thing we're going to do is actually enable the real-time Mac Priority kernel module on FreeBSD. And I've got a little tip from the Marden's site here. He's got a good article on setting up a FreeBSD home audio studio, which gave me a couple of tips on setting up the real-time Mac Priority kernel. So what we need to do on FreeBSD is run sudo sysrc kld_list plus equals Mac Priority, and that will append the Mac Priority kernel module to your KLD list in your jackctl file. We then load the kernel module using sudo kld load Mac_priority, and we then add ourselves to the real-time group. You have a similar thing on Linux where you can build a real-time kernel, and what you also need to do on Linux is add yourself to the real-time group. So on FreeBSD we run sudo pw group mod realtime -m and then our username. And if you grep the jackctl group file for real-time, you'll see that you have been added to the real-time group. Probably a good point to reboot the system after you've set that up, just to make sure everything's working, but it might not be necessary, but I always like to do that. So the next step is actually installing Jack. On Linux it would just be Jack. On FreeBSD the package name is audio/jack or jackctl. So we run sudo pkg install audio/jack, and what we need to do is edit our rc.conf file and add jacked enabled, and I'm setting it to no because I'm just going to start it when I need it, jacked user and our username, and jacked real-time priority equals yes. Once we've got that set up, we can install QjackCtl. So this would be the same on Linux, except you'd use sudo apt install or, DNF or whatever your package manager is. So on FreeBSD we run sudo pkg install QjackCtl. Now on FreeBSD what we need to do is actually set the microphone level. So you open the mixer TUI, if you have it installed, or use the mixer command to set the microphone level to 100. Right, the next step, once we have everything set up, we're going to run jacked on the command line. And we're going to run this as a regular user, so we're not running this as root. We're going to run jacked-R for real time, -D for the back-end audio server, which in our case is OSS. On Linux it would probably be Ulcer, Pulse Audio or Pipewire or something. And we then capture we'd set the rate we're capturing at, so 48000 kilohertz. Then we have two flags here, -C, which is the capture device. This is the device that we're capturing the audio from, which in my case is dev DSP3, which is my external USB microphone, and -P for the playback device, which is DSP1, which is my headphones. On other Linux distributions, you'll need to read the documentation and have a look at how to find your audio devices that you want to capture. So we've got Jack running. So the next step is actually, if we come across back to OBS Studio, what you have to do is add a jacked input client. So you come up here, you do jacked input client, and if I double click this, what you'll see is it just comes up with this number of channels 2. You don't need to start the Jack server. So this is the confusing thing. If you just add the Jack input client in OBS Studio, nothing happens. What you've got to do is actually a couple of steps. Okay, so what you need to do is you have Jack running in the command line. You then open OBS Studio and add the Jack input client. And then what you do is in the QjackCtl application, you click Patch Bay. And what will happen is by default, this will be empty. So what you need to do is click New, and it will sort of like say, do you want to reload all the connected devices? And you click Yes. Then what happens is you will get this set up with the system on the left. With the system on the left and the output on the right. So what we got here is the system. So this is the microphone and this is the OBS Studio input. So what you have to do is you've got to drag from here across to here. And once you do that, you'll get a little button that says connect. When you click connect, it will actually draw a line between these two things. However, at this point, you still won't have any audio. And that's what had me stumped for a while until I noticed this little button up the top right. Once you've got it all set up, you've got Jack running, you've patched this, you've connected it, you need to click activate. Then once you click activate, what you'll see in OBS Studio is the audio coming in from jacked. So what I have here set up as well is some filters. We've got the noise suppression. These are just all default values pretty much. Noise suppression, noise gate, a compressor, and a limiter. So that's all we needed to do to actually get Jack set up. So let's just have a little recap to refresh your memory. So for FreeBSD, we set up the real-time kernel. We added the Mac priority to our KLD list. We loaded the module. We added ourselves to the real-time group, and we checked that was okay. Might need to reboot at that stage. We installed Jack. We edited our rc.conf and added jacked enable no, jacked user, and jacked real-time priority. After that, we installed QJack. We set the microphone level to 100%. We run jacked on the command line, so this is jacked with the -R flag for real time, -D OSS for the audio backend. The bitrate we're capturing at, the kilohertz. The captured device, that's the microphone, and the output device, which is the headphones. And what you need to do, as I said, you open OBS Studio, you add the Jack input client, and then you can actually start jacked to match the output of the microphone to the input of OBS Studio. So again, we've got Jack running there, got QJack here. You click the patch bay, this comes up empty. You do new, reload, and then this appears. You drag that to that, click connect, and then you click activate. What you also want to do is you also want to save the settings. So give it a name, click save, and what will happen is this will automatically be loaded every time you start QJacked. So all you got to do is actually, when you come to record, you start jacked on the command line, open up QjackCtl, open up OBS Studio, click activate, and you'll then have the output of the microphone coming through Jack into OBS Studio. So that's all there is to it, but it's not completely obvious, so that's why I thought I'd make the video. And just on another note, I'm using DWL here, which is basically DWM for Wayland, and I was previously using Wayfire as a Wayland compositor, but I was getting a lot of audio clicks and pops with that, so I think there was some issue with capturing the screen with the DMFA buffer OBS plugin that was not working properly with some WL roots compositors like Wayfire or Hikari, but I've switched to using DWL, and that seems to have fixed the issue, hopefully. So I'll put links to all that, all these bits under the video, and that's all for now.